Okay, no lie, this is by far and away the most excited I have been for a live stream in an extremely long time. The reason for that is we are not talking regular fantasy football. We are indeed talking about the best way to play fantasy football, Dynasty Fantasy. We are going to be getting a 2022 startup mock draft going. Now, we got a couple things to discuss, so please don't skip this intro. It's going to be a little bit longer, but I definitely want to give a quality intro so everybody kind of understands what we are doing here. So the settings of this Dynasty mock draft are going to be tight end premium, where tight ends are going to get 1.5 points per reception, and they're going to be super flex at the same time. Now, if you are wanting to get into a Dynasty league, and first off, let me say, drop a like, leave a comment letting us know how stupid we are, as this is probably going to be the first Dynasty draft that you see on YouTube. I'd imagine after we do this, everybody's going to copy us as usual, and you'll see a bunch over the next week. But nonetheless, make sure you drop a like, leave a comment letting us know how dumb we are, because as the first people going out and doing this, kind of putting yourself out on a limb here. And also subscribe to the channel, but only if, and I repeat, only if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. If you don't play Dynasty, don't waste your time. Please don't subscribe to the channel. And with the settings, as we've discussed, Superflex, tight end premium, and you are also going to be seeing kickers get selected. Now, the kickers in this draft are not actually going to be the kickers that you are selecting. We are drafting on Sleeper Fantasy right now. They do not have the 2022 rookies implemented into this draft class. So instead, those kickers are going to be what's called the rookie placeholders. So if you want the rookie pick 101, you go through and you take the first kicker off the board. If you want the rookie pick 102, you take the second kicker off the board. You'll see that once we get into the draft, but please don't think people are drafting kickers. And please embarrass anybody in the comment section if they go through and they go, oh my God, how are they drafting kickers? Because clearly they skipped this intro. Now, if you want to get into Dynasty mock drafts with us, if you want to get into real Dynasty leagues with us, you can find that over there on Patreon. On Patreon, we are going to be doing this very often. Y'all know we started out our main YouTube channel as a Dynasty Fantasy Football channel. I mean, years and years and years ago, that kind of transitioned over to being a regular fantasy football channel. And we made this one just because I love Dynasty Fantasy Football so much. And I still want to be talking about it because I have more fun doing this than I have anything else. But if you want to get into your own 2022 mock draft, how I would advise that is by going through and actually getting into some best ball drafts for 2022. I know that's clearly not Dynasty, but it will give you a good feel on the 2022 draft landscape. And you can do that over there on Underdog Fantasy. Why I'm bringing this up is A, because Underdog Fantasy obviously sponsoring this channel. And when you use promo code FLOCK, they'll match that first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. But B, more importantly, that'll be the easiest place for you to get into 2022 drafts. I mean, you can find a $10 draft buy-in. You can hop in that draft, maybe in a $5 draft buy-in, and you could just go through, have some fun with some other random people in a lobby that actually care about the draft. So you'll actually be able to sharpen your draft skills for 2022 Dynasty leagues. But that should be it for the intro in this video. I can see we got a lot of people out in the chat. Thank y'all all so much for coming out. And y'all know, of course, I'm going to go through and post a link on Patreon. I imagine most people that have their notifications on for the Dynasty channel are over there on Patreon. We just posted that out there, so please go and join this mock draft. We sent out the notification in Discord as well that we are live. And yeah, let's just watch this fill. Hopefully we get enough people coming in that we don't have to wait a couple seconds. Let me change this chat to subscriber only really quick, and also give some shout outs to the people out in the live stream right now. Okay, so right now in the live stream, actually, let's finish making this subscriber only. And really quick, I took the 6th pick in this draft because I don't want to have to go through and wait until we get to the 112, and then I have 2 picks, and then we have to wait another 25 picks till we get back, or the same thing at the 101. So let me send out that notification on Discord and post that on Patreon. And if we do not get that filled on Patreon within the first minute or so, I'm not going to leave us waiting here for a while. It looks like we're going to get it filled on Patreon. I will send out the link in the live chat as well for anybody subscribed to the channel with their notifications on. Now, people out in the live stream, we got Caesar, Senior Skittles, Noah, JN, Joe, Thomas, Jay Jostin, Steven, Nicholas. Thank you all so much for coming out And Steven says, really appreciate your insight into the 2022 rookies. Oh yeah, y'all know we'll be doing deep dives on those 2022 rookies. We did a way too early look with those videos last week. I promise you our opinions are probably going to change a ton as we go through the offseason, especially with those running backs whenever you get the official testing measurables and we have a better sense on the NFL draft capital as well, because y'all know I'm of the opinion that NFL draft capital definitely matters, regardless of if you say that's because it gives us an insight on the talent level of a player or more so just predicts the opportunity that they will get at the next level. We got one spot left, so I'm assuming that's going to be taken by Patreon. It just was. Let's go through. Let's get this draft going. I could not be more Let's go. I could not be more excited for this. Okay, so yeah, now let me also see if we can slide this up so y'all can see who's on the board. Now, because we're some of the first people doing this ADP you're going to find here is clearly messed up. Like, you have Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, I mean, all ahead of Jonathan Taylor. So that's not going to be what you find in regular drafts. You got Mahomes and Kyler going off at the 101 and the 102. I'm completely fine with that. If you want to take Mahomes and Kyler, there are no arguments there. Justin Herbert at the 103, Josh Allen at the 104, going very quarterback heavy here. Of course, this is a super flex league. Let's see if JN does it. Let's see if he pulls the trigger on yet another quarterback to go 5 in a row. He takes... if we would have got Jonathan Taylor at that 6th pick, that would have been nasty. Now, I'm not considering Trevor Lawrence here. Of course, we can't consider Lawrence. Let's go through, and I honestly probably should focus a little less in the live stream in these now, and we should probably go through and instead focus a little bit more on the players available because, I mean, ADP is going to be all through the... It's going to be all mixed up, so it's going to be hard for us to stream this at the same time. My favorite running back available right now would be Deandre Swift. My favorite wide receiver available would be Justin Jefferson. Quarterback, can we go Lamar? You know what? I think it's close between Lamar, DeAndre Swift, and Justin Jefferson, but based on how I'm afraid that this draft may play out, knowing that the quarterback position does see a sharp fall off in Dynasty once you get to about quarterback 9, quarterback 10, we are going to go through, we're going to take Lamar Jackson here, especially because we see the drafters here in particular going and getting their quarterbacks early. You see 4 of them going before Jonathan Taylor. So if we were to pass on a quarterback here, I'd be a little bit worried what we are going to be looking at later on in the live stream. So let's take Lamar Jackson at the 106. Okay, so DeAndre Swift at the 107. That's the other player that we were going to be considering here. And y'all know what we were saying last year. What you need to be doing is getting those running backs on their rookie contracts. That's why we were higher than consensus on guys like Jonathan Taylor, on guys like DeAndre Swift. Yes, also Travis Etienne. Yes, also Cam Akers. Clearly that doesn't work out for us. But I think when you're betting on those running backs with their rookie contracts that are going to be able to continue to increase their dynasty value, it has been proven time and time again that running backs on their rookie contracts, I mean, with their dynasty value in particular, if they have a fine season, then you get that elite jump in value. You cannot find that with the Joe Mixon. With Joe Mixon, y'all know I loved him in redraft. In Dynasty Fantasy Football, I wasn't necessarily a massive fan of Joe Mixon because even when he comes out and has a great season this year, it's not like Joe Mixon is really skyrocketing into being a mid-first round pick. Whereas DeAndre Swift is a little bit of a different scenario where DeAndre Swift doesn't even impress as much as Mixon, but given his age and his contract situation, he is going to slide into the middle of the first. Barkley at the 108. If you would have told me this last offseason, I would have been all about it. If you would have told me this halfway through this year, I would have been all about it. Now, based on what we have seen with Saquon Barkley coming back from this last injury, I don't know if I'm just getting too scared here. I go Justin Jefferson over Saquon Barkley. I go Najee Harris over Saquon Barkley at the same time. I know with Najee Harris, a lot of people are saying, I'm not going to speak too much on the players that I'm going to have after this because I want to keep it a little under wraps. I want to make sure my team is the best out of this. Love that Najee Harris pick at the 110. Hate the Alvin Kamara pick at the 111. Hate it. I mean, as we've always discussed, these veteran running backs on their second deals, the first season you get that fall off, their dynasty value is going to collapse. Now, Alvin Kamara technically has not had that fall off. You're looking at a points per game basis so far this season. He has been like the running back 3. But if we're talking about just long-term value here, I don't necessarily see it with Kamara. He's going to be going into the 3rd year of his second contract in 2022. I think that Alvin Kamara pick is very bad. I wouldn't have considered Alvin Kamara. I wouldn't have considered him at the 207, to be completely honest. Now, CeeDee Lamb at the 112. Yeah, looks like B. Petway, maybe he doesn't understand what Dynasty is. I posted this on Patreon, and I clearly said on Patreon, please only join if you played Dynasty for over 1 year. I started playing Dynasty Fantasy Football back in 2014 with the draft class of Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr. That was my year that I got in, just dove in completely within a ridiculous amount of teams, and I've been in love ever since. Was hoping that we could limit this draft to people who've only played in Dynasty for at least longer than a year. Clearly, I don't think this is a start that someone who's played Dynasty for a while makes. I don't think you take Kamara at the 111 and Adams at the 202. Now, y'all know this last offseason, I hated the draft price of Kyle Pitts. We were calling Kyle Pitts one of the most overrated players in fantasy drafts based on historical hit rates from rookie tight ends. Historical hit rates from rookie tight ends, you were just seeing that Kyle Pitts, was not really going where you should have. I thought that you should have been taking the rookie running backs over Kyle Pitts, because whenever he does have that disappointing rookie season, like the perfect example is Najee Harris versus Kyle Pitts. Most people in a tight end premium format were going Kyle Pitts when Najee Harris was clearly the selection, because when you get that running back on their rookie contract coming in and they hit right away, then all of a sudden that's a player that you know is going to skyrocket in value and you're getting production right away. We did it. We did it. We did it. We did it. Boys, lock it in. Lock it in. Javonte Williams at the 207 here. I almost brought up Javonte Williams versus Najee Harris when Najee Harris got selected at the 1. Jayan, I hate you. I hate you. You know what? I probably should have gone Lance. I probably should have gone with our Trey Lance. I think that the 207, the 208, these are fantastic selections. Now, here, I almost talked about Javonte Williams at the 110 because I was hoping there was going to be a chance we made him back. So, yes. Now, I've heard a lot of people coming through and pouring on the hype that Javonte Williams is a running back that you should be taking over Najee Harris. You shouldn't do that. I understand if you want to make the argument that Javonte Williams has been the more efficient running back, if you want to make the argument that Javonte Williams looks like the better guy in general, sure, I don't really care if that's your argument, because we have seen with Najee Harris that in this offense, he is going to be used at a higher rate. His usage is through the roof. He's seeing close to 100% snaps every single week. And to see that he can handle that workload all through the season, I still think you have to have Najee Harris over Javonte Williams, but Javonte Williams here at the 207, I think that is fantastic value. I think that here, instead of Antonio Gibson, I know Gibson looks stronger at the end of the season. I don't like this selection. I think I would have preferred to go with A.J. Brown. I think I would have preferred to go with Jamar Chase, some of these younger wide receivers. And now let's go through, and I need to stop talking because, like I said, the ADP is all out of whack here. So I need to be scrolling through. I need to have a good idea of the players that are actually appealing and available on the board. Okay, so Lawrence goes to the 302. Remember, last offseason, Lawrence was going at the end of the first. I think Lawrence definitely has to fall. And then you get Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Travis Etienne, and some running backs in their rookie deals. Okay, probably, let's go over here. Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins as older wide receivers. DJ Moore. It's funny to see Juju Smith-Schuster all the way up here. You got T. Higgins up here. Y'all know T. Higgins was a wide receiver that, I was all about this last offseason. Cooper Kupp still available at the same time. Obviously, Cooper Kupp a little bit older here, 28 years old currently. But, clearly as a win now asset, you could be very excited about Kupp. Now, tight end, you also have Kittle. You have Kelsey. I guess Kelsey definitely needs to be falling down from a Dynasty fantasy football context. You have Waller. Waller's surprisingly young. Dobbins goes to the 303. Okay, so something I want to talk about really quick is J.K. Dobbins versus Cam Akers. We've already discussed this on the channel as well. But with J.K. Dobbins, we had him ranked behind Cam Akers before the two running backs had their injuries. I had Cam Akers as the running back 4 overall in our Dynasty rankings. Now, since then, Deebo Samuel goes to 305. We have I think not many people are going to agree with this selection. Chris Godwin, yes, was drafted back in 2017, but he is deceivingly young. Out of Penn State, he was actually drafted at 20 years old. He's only 25 right now. Now, he is not under contract with Tampa next season, but I think Chris Godwin has shown us that he is the talent that he can be productive from anywhere. And I know that a lot of people probably want to see Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Cooper Kupp is the much better win now asset. But when Cooper Kupp's going to be 29, he was actually drafted in the same class, which is really funny. It's just funny to see that. Cooper Kupp was drafted after being in college for 5 years, where Chris Godwin was drafted at 20 years old, where Chris Godwin is significantly younger. I am going to be taking Chris Godwin here in the middle of the third. Maybe we end up regretting this selection, but I'm going to be fine with it because I think he has the long-term value as well. Now, in regards of what we were talking about with someone like Cam Akers, love the talent profile of Cam Akers. Looks like a bell cow running back to me. Now, my issue with Akers is the fact that this is a running back that, The torn Achilles is a devastating, and I repeat, a devastating injury where I think you need to go through and you need to be avoiding it where you can. Like, I would prefer Dobbins over Cam Akers at this point. Like, I'm probably not going to take Akers in this draft because I know there are probably some other people here who really like him, and he is near the top of this ADP list right now. And now we have a question coming out from Rock Lee. Says, was I dumb to trade away Ja'Marr Chase for Kyle Pitts and 2 future first-round picks? I have Devonta Smith, J.K. Dobbins, right now. You can play in a tank for 2 more years. I have 14 first through 2024. Okay, so as we were discussing, Kyle Pitts was horribly overrated last offseason. But Kyle Pitts, while he has not necessarily been that productive this year, if anything, I am higher on Kyle Pitts now than I was last season, because I had realistic expectations of what you could expect from a rookie tight end based on the historical production that you have seen from that given position. So actually, I love the idea of buying Kyle Pitts now. Last offseason, when we were saying that we were avoiding Kyle Pitts, our initial plan was to avoid drafting him in rookie drafts, instead take someone like Najee Harris, and then go through and trade for Kyle Pitts his second season. So right now, I think you can make the argument that in a tight end premium format, you would prefer Kyle Pitts over Ja'Marr Chase. You see Kyle Pitts here go before Ja'Marr Chase. So of course, if you're able to trade away Ja'Marr Chase and get Kyle Pitts and a first-round pick, of course you're doing that. The fact that you got 2 first-round picks, I don't think you're really asking a good question here. I think you're going through and you're just flexing on us to show us that trade that you got. Congrats. Now, Travis Etienne goes to the 308. Now, y'all know I was a fan of Travis Etienne in rookie drafts this last offseason based on what you usually see with those rookie running backs that have the 3-down profile that get the NFL draft capital, like Javonte Williams, like Najee Harris, their rookie seasons, being able to increase their fantasy value while produce early on at the same time. Travis Etienne at the 308. Honestly, I think this is a little bit rich. I think it's a little bit rich on Travis Etienne. I think you have to bump him down lower. I promise you, in the other dynasty drafts that you're going to find, I mean, keep in mind, I think that this one's a little bit different because this is filled through the Fantasy Flock Network Patreon. So everybody had access to my rookie rankings last year. Everybody followed the channel last year. So they kind of understood that I was really high on Travis Etienne. I think you have to be a little bit lower than this. Like if you're looking at Travis Etienne versus someone like Russell Wilson, I honestly probably prefer Russell. I know I prefer Russell Wilson. It's not honestly kind of, I just definitely prefer Russell Wilson. You have DJ Moore, a young stud wide receiver going at the 310. Now, obviously the issue is the situation in Carolina. And by the way, Post Dylan, he is one of the sharpest drafters you're going to play with. He is in so many Flock Patreon Dynasty leagues. He was able to sneak his way into a couple too many. I'm not going to lie. Now, roster Bader up on the clock after going CeeDee Lamb, Joe Burrow. Yep, so B. Petway. They're going just full-on win now. Kamara, Devontae Adams, Derrick Henry. This would be a team that, I mean, you probably see it draft 5 rounds and you go, hey, man, can I get your dues for 2022, 2023, 2024? Because after the first week, I mean, that's going to be an ugly situation. Now, Deshaun Watson at the 312. Great pick with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, a quarterback that it has an extremely low floor, but we talk about this all the time, especially in Dynasty Fantasy Football. I think one of the worst things you can do in Dynasty Fantasy Football is decide to go through and take players that have a high floor yet a low ceiling. Like maybe an example at the quarterback position outside of Deshaun Watson in particular would be maybe going through and taking someone like Baker Mayfield. Now, I know this is a very bad comparison. Nobody would ever take Baker Mayfield over Deshaun Watson, but just as an example, with Baker Mayfield, what's the realistic expectation here? Realistic expectation is at worst, he is a low-end quarterback 2. At best, he's a mid quarterback 2. Like, you know exactly what he is, and that's never going to be swinging you in Dynasty one way or another. What's really nice about taking Deshaun Watson is, well, if he doesn't play next season, then you blow up your team. You go and you earn the rookie pick 101, and you actually get incentivized to then be significantly better the following season. Now, if Deshaun Watson does play, and we've seen him historically be a top 3 quarterback at the position, then you have a league-winning player at the 312. Now, as we were talking about Dylan being a very sharp drafter here, he then decides to go through and take Jalen Hurts at the 403. Very bad pick. With Jalen Hurts, I think from a redraft standpoint, you love the production that you were going to have. Now, from a dynasty standpoint, the issue is the long-term job security. I was drafting Jalen Hurts everywhere in the 3rd round of 2020 12-team Dynasty Superflex leagues, and that's because if he was to go through and if he was to get that starting job, you know that with his rushing upside, you could potentially be looking at a quarterback 1. But he was drafted in the 2nd round of that 2020 class, and historically speaking, when you see those quarterbacks that don't have that top draft capital, I mean, their teams are going to be a lot more willing to move on from them the second that they disappoint. Not to mention that with the Philadelphia Eagles, they should have not only their 1st round pick this season, but you also also will have the Indianapolis Colts first round pick as well. So I'd be a little bit worried about this job security with Jalen Hurts. Okay. So now Justin Fields goes to the 404. Now, y'all know I have been one of the, I will say, I feel like I'm the only person in the entire Dynasty fantasy football community that has ever said anything bad about Justin Fields, because the second I say something bad about Justin Fields, everybody comes in and everybody just wants to tell me that I'm the dumbest person that's ever walked the face of the earth, that I just don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and how everybody and their mom knows that Justin Fields is going to be some great quarterback. Now, y'all know we were calling him, we are actually saying he was the most overdrafted player, not Kyle Pitts, in fantasy drafts last season for a multitude of reasons. I will say at the 404, though, I think that's a completely fair price for Justin Fields. Like, if you're asking me Justin Fields versus Jalen Hurts, I would prefer Justin Fields over Jalen Hurts. Now, there are a couple other quarterbacks on the board right now that I would rather have over both guys. So you're going to see me take at least one of them here. I'll give that little sneak peek. You have calcium oxide coming out with the 406. He's gone Swift, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle to start this draft off. He goes Russell Wilson. Now, my quarterbacks that we are going to be looking at were either going to be Russell Wilson or our next guy, which I believe we're going to take Mac Jones. Now, let me favorite Mac Jones here just in case we run out of time. Oh, I guess we didn't favorite him. We should have added him to our queue there. Whatever. I was going to go through and double check to make sure we weren't missing out on any players. Hopefully we didn't. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult to live stream and do this at the same time. I think Matthew Stafford would have been a very appealing pick there as well, because age really doesn't matter at the quarterback position. JN decides to go T. Higgins. Really like that T. Higgins selection. I don't want to be talking... Okay, Jalen Waddle, that's also a great pick. You know what? Maybe that Mac Jones pick was not that good to begin with. Maybe we should have gone through and scrolled a little bit more to try to find a better option. Cooper Kupp still available. Yeah, Cooper Kupp at this point is probably the value of the draft. He's easily the value of the draft. Now, yes, he's a little bit older. As we said, we considered Cooper Kupp versus Chris Godwin at the 306. Now, age is the main reason that we decided not to go that route. I think you have to prefer Cooper Kupp over T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle. Like, the perfect example is, how are you taking Tyreek Hill at the 210 and Cooper Kupp's not going until the end of the fourth? Like, here, I would question Adam. Adam has been a very active member of the Dynasty community on Patreon for a very long time. He's always in these mock drafts. He was in 2020. I would question him here and saying, how are you taking Tyreek Hill at the end of the second and then passing up on Cooper Kupp at the end of the fourth? I think that's a legitimate question, because, like, what's the difference between Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp? Like, seriously. Like, a serious question. What's the difference between Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp? And to take Tyreek at the 210 and then to pass on Cooper Kupp at the 410, I just don't necessarily understand that really at all. Now, Mike Evans coming out at the 502. Okay, so let's go. Let's try to figure out what we're doing next. Like I said, this ADP is so messed up from Sleeper. This is why I would advise, if y'all really want to get a feel for the 2022 draft landscape. Of course, they're not doing Dynasty, but they are doing Best Ball. To go over and sign up to Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. You can find the link in the description of the live stream. And when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And also, you can just go through and dive into some 2022 drafts there with some random people with real money on the line as well. It's available in damn near every single state. So TJ Hawkinson at the 503. Love that Hawkinson pick. Love that Hawkinson pick. Okay, let's go through. Just making sure we're not missing out on anybody. See, if I was going through and I was drafting on my own, like, a big thing that I would do is I would go through and scroll through this entire list when this ADP is messed up, and I would go through and I would add a couple players to my queue here. Now, the issue is, obviously, we're on the live stream. I don't want people to see us doing that. I don't want to be getting sniped on here. Hollywood Brown goes to the 505. Okay, just to make sure. I think we do it. I know Darren Waller, yes, is older, but at the same time, we've seen that tight ends usually age gracefully compared to other positions. Let me add Darren Waller to my queue, and then we can go through and talk about some other options. And I know that it looks like we're creating a balanced roster on purpose here. It's more so I just believe we're taking best player available. I think maybe the Mac Jones selection in the fourth wasn't great. Like, if we could go back, I think maybe we take a wide receiver there. But just making sure I'm not missing out on anybody. There are a couple names that need to be keeping in the back of my head here as we scroll through this list. I think we should be good to take Darren Waller. Like with Travis Kelce, I believe Kelce's going to be 32 this offseason. Yeah, he's 32 now. Yeah, I think we have to go Darren Waller at this point. The reminder, this is a tied in premium format. This is a tied in premium format. So we're going to go Darren Waller at the 506. Okay, so now calcium oxide on the clock. Let me know, who would you prefer in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now? Would you prefer Waller or Hawkinson? It's crazy to see. It's unbelievable to see that right now you're going to have Travis Kelce about as the tight end 6 on the board. Like, there's no way in hell anybody takes a different tight end over Kelce. Like, nobody's taking Noah Fant over Travis Kelce. So Kelce is going to be the tight end 6. I'd be very interested to know where he gets drafted in a tight end premium format. You know you're going to have BP. Wait, I just hate this team right here. Going through 509, Rafa decides to go with Travis Kelce as his first tight end off the board. Okay, so I'll say this Mac Jones pick real quick was very bad. I do not like my Mac Jones selection. As we said, we tried to queue him, and then instead of queuing him, we accidentally just drafted him. So it is what it is. I mean, this is definitely the first draft. We're going to be getting so many of these underway. So I know everybody in this live chat right now is already subscribed to the channel. So thank y'all so much for that. And also, if you have not done so already, please go down there and drop a like on the live stream. Helps us out so much. You know what? If I could, we should have lowered the timer. This should have been a 30-second timer. This is going to be an 11-round draft. So let's see where Dylan goes. Like I said, I think the majority of the time you're going to see Dylan make some pretty sharp selections here. I didn't like his selection of Jalen Hurts. Okay, so they're going Chase Claypool. I wonder if he had Chase Claypool queued up. Actually, no, he did have Chase Claypool queued up because if you go through, it would have taken Michael Thomas for him. Okay, so Claypool, that selection, I'm not sure what to think about it. There are definitely a couple other players I would prefer over Chase Claypool. And at the quarterback position, I'll say real quick, I really do not like this Tua Tagovailoa selection. Like, Tua is the perfect example of what we were talking about, like with a perfect player to avoid in fantasy football, in Dynasty Fantasy Football in particular. I don't necessarily see the upside with the pick, if that makes sense. I'll agree that I think Tua, I don't even really realistically see the floor with the selection either, because we have heard rumors of Miami wanting to go through and possibly replace Tua. Now, I know he's looked great over the past month, and this Miami team does look really good at the same time. But even Tua looking great over the past month, he's been a quarterback 2 in fantasy. So I think the ceiling's going to be a little bit capped here with Tua. I don't love that selection at the 508. Devonta Smith at the 512. Now, this is the pick of, I don't want to say the round. I think that this is probably the best. I would rather have Smith over Allen. I'd rather have Smith over Claypool. I'd rather have Smith over Tua. I think you probably prefer Hopkins. Age doesn't matter as much of the wide receiver position as it will at running back. Connor says, who had the best draft so far in your opinion? Okay, so let me go through, and y'all know I'm always just 100% honest in these live streams. I'm the first one to admit that I am wrong a ton, so my opinion doesn't necessarily mean everything. I mean, definitely does not mean everything. Let me rephrase the way I word that. Okay, so let me go through and let's go team by team, and I'll just point out any selections that I don't like, because really that's the goal in Dynasty Fantasy Football, is just to make sure you are in line with the rest, make sure that you're not making any horrendous selections. Connor here, I think this is a fine team. I think that this Cooper Kupp pick at the 412, obviously fantastic value. Speedy, I think this is a fine team as well. Y'all know I've never been a massive fan of Nick Chubb, but the 411 seems like fine value. Now, this is the pick of the draft. Matthew Stafford at the 603. As we've discussed, age simply does not matter at the quarterback position. It does not matter at the quarterback position. To let Stafford go this far was a massive mistake. This is why my Mac Jones selection looks so damn bad at the 407, because you could easily argue that you prefer Matthew Stafford even in a dynasty format over Mac Jones when age simply doesn't matter at the position, as we previously discussed. So honestly, if I could go through and I could just remake that Mac Jones pick at the 407, I probably would take Stafford over Mac Jones. I think that is such a good pick. That is by far and away the best pick of the draft so far, is Matthew Stafford at the 603. Okay, so now our next pick, we got to go through and scan through this really quick. Goddard at the 605. Obviously, Goddard's role's just completely changed in Philadelphia since Zach Ertz has left. Amari at the 606. Okay, so we are on the clock right now. I think I know who we're going to be going with, and I know that people are not going to like it, but it is what it is. Let me just make sure we don't want to take him over any quarterbacks. I'm going to put an asterisk on this pick. I want you all to know, I do not believe this player is a talented player. There are multiple other running backs that are more talented on this list than him currently. Now, the state of the matter is, his team does not have many options to go elsewhere this offseason. And at the same time, he should be in one of the better offenses in the NFL. He was a first-round draft pick last year. Those first-round draft picks have the fifth-year team option as well. We are going to go Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He is that 3-down running back on his rookie contract for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I know Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not an elite talent, but based on the job security that he has with that contract, and based on the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't have a lot of money to go out there and get a free agent. They don't have, that many draft picks either. They have gone through, traded away. I think to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the 607, a very young running back, currently 22 years old, in what should be an improved offense next year. I know that not many people are going to like that selection, but we are going to be taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the 607. Pat Freiermuth at the 608 by J&J, and I hate the pick. I hate it. Yes, Freiermuth has looked great so far. Yes, this is a tight end premium league. Actually, maybe it's not that bad. Like, who would we take over Freiermuth? I think you probably have to take a couple of these quarterbacks over Freiermuth. Running back, yes, Aaron Jones is going to be on the second year of that second contract this next year. I think I'd prefer maybe some of these wide receivers as well. There's a wide receiver on this list that I really think is good value at this point that I can't mention his name. Rodgers at the 609. As we've discussed, age doesn't matter as much at the quarterback position, but there's a big difference between Aaron Rodgers being 38 and what we were previously discussing with Matthew Stafford being 33. Like that is a massive gap here. That's why I was saying Matthew Stafford just by far and away the best pick of the draft. Like here, Matthew Stafford versus Jalen Hurts. Both picked by Dylan. As we've said, I think Dylan, the majority of dynasty drafts that I'm in, okay, Michael Pittman, that was the wide receiver that we were talking about being a great value. But the majority of drafts that I'm in with Dylan, he is a very, very sharp drafter. And with that being said, I think this Jalen Hurts pick, one of the worst picks of the draft. Like, I prefer having Matthew Stafford over Jalen Hurts. And honestly, I don't necessarily think it's that close either. Bora coming out says, with Goddard's new contract, is it bad that I'd rather take him than Travis Kelce? He is 6 to 7 years younger. Is he 6 to 7 years younger? He was drafted in 2018. I thought he was drafted a little bit older. Yeah, so he is currently 26. So he is 6 years younger. Okay, Leonard Fournette at the 612. Elijah Mitchell at the 701. Okay, so let's look at Leonard Fournette versus some of the other running backs. I think I prefer Ezekiel Elliott still has guaranteed money on his contract next year. Of course, Zeke has looked pretty bad. I think I prefer Ezekiel Elliott over Leonard Fournette. He's going to get the guaranteed touches in Dallas, especially with the money on the contract. Now you have Jerry Judy going at the 702. Jerry Judy, clearly an elite level talent. The issue is this team goes out there and re-signs both Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick. Now, the long-term guaranteed money isn't necessarily there with either wide receiver, but you're really hoping that Sutton was not going to be back in Denver for Jerry Judy this next season. Also love that value on Rashad Bateman at the 703. Connor says he regrets taking Leonard Fournette. Yes, my friend, I think that Leonard Fournette pick was pretty bad. I think that there were a couple other running backs here that we would probably rather have. Obviously, in a redraft format, you love Fournette, but the issue is not in a dynasty league. Okay, this top of the wide receiver list is just filled with the most disappointing wide receivers this season. Now, let's go down a little bit, see if there are any other intriguing names at the position. Okay, wide receiver has dried up a little bit. Wide receivers dried up a ton here. Yeah, there's no way in hell I consider a wide receiver at this pick. Maybe there's someone I'm missing. I think these trio wide receivers like the last. Oh, nice pick with Michael Carter. Really like that selection with Carter. Obviously, Fant has the talents. We may have to go to the quarterback position. Quarterback or running back. I can't take Sanders. Sanders technically is on his rookie contract, drafted in 2019 in the second round out of Penn State. I don't necessarily think you can go there. I think we may end up going with the quarterback. God, I wish I knew that. I wish I didn't have to look this up. How much more guaranteed money does Ryan Tannehill have on his contract? Probably going to go Tannehill here. Let me queue him up just in case it autos us. Okay, so it was a $91 million guaranteed contract. How front-loaded was it? Okay, so he is going to have $18 million on the dead cap in 2023. I'd imagine this is a team that's going to be tied to him. Of course, Tannehill hasn't looked great this season, but you've also had the injuries to, both A.J. Brown as well as Julio Jones. I think we're just going to go Ryan Tannehill here at the 706. Mayfield, I'm really not that interested in Baker Mayfield and Dynasty. You've never seen Baker Mayfield demonstrate a high ceiling, and at the same time, I think you're also probably going to have this team looking elsewhere to fill their quarterback need in the future. I think Baker Mayfield does not get a massive contract with a ton of guarantees. Caleb says, I get sad every time I see Juju's name. The freaking potential will always hope the best, my friend. If you were following the Dynasty channel with us 2 off seasons ago, back when Juju Smith-Schuster was still expensive, trust me, you know the pain that I feel every single time we see Juju Smith. Oh my God. You know what we need to do? I hate to do this. We're going to have to try to fix this really quick. We are going to remove the kicker, because remember at the beginning of this live stream, I said that we were going to have kickers as rookie placeholders. Well, clearly every single person in this draft forgot. Clearly every single person in this draft forgot, including myself. So yeah, we cannot have that kicker going like the rookie pick 101. The first rookie off the board is not going in the 7th round. That 101 should have instead probably gone at the 2-3 turn. So yeah, no, we're going to have to just remove that, or we're just going to see kickers get drafted over the next round, and it's not going to help us at all. So yeah, it looks like we're having no rookie picks in this draft. Maybe we'll get another one going later this week with rookie picks. Calcium oxide coming in through with the sneaky rookie pick 101 there. Okay. So hopefully he wasn't going to be going with Ezekiel Elliott as his backup. My friend, I am so sorry. That is completely my fault. I think at this point, though, it's safe to say that nobody was really drafting with those rookies in mind. So we have to go through and we have to make that adjustment here. Hopefully he is back on his computer or his phone or something so we can get this second selection in. If not, like if it autos him, someone like Michael Thomas or some trash like that he clearly wouldn't have gone with, I will probably just go through and I'll make the selection myself. He does have a very balanced team so far. DeAndre Swift, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Russell Wilson. He goes Kirk Cousins at the 707. Like I said, my friend, I am sorry to have to go through and remove the rookie pick 101. Obviously, the rookie pick 101 is significantly better than Kirk Cousins. Just clearly everybody in this draft forgot, or you would have had those rookies going way before this. Okay, Miles Sanders to the 709. Yeah, so after you see that wide receiver tier drop off with someone like Rashad Bateman, you don't see another wide receiver drafted in the next 6 picks. I honestly really like our pick of Tannehill at the 706. And Clyde Edwards, I really like what we did in this draft so far. I think if we could go back and possibly make some adjustments here, I think our 3rd and 4th round picks, these were the bad ones. I think we had some fog here. I think we probably should have gone a different direction. Like, I don't mind the idea of going wide receiver and quarterback. I think maybe it would have been better to go Watson and Stafford. I think if we would have gone Watson and Stafford, that would have been a better way to take things. Now you have Kareem Hunt at the 710. And at this point, you are probably just going to see some wild picks here. Let's go through. Let's check out the quarterbacks. Good thing we got Tannehill, because I feel like really there aren't that many quarterbacks left. And yeah, Zach Wilson. Okay, A.J. Dillon. Love the A.J. Dillon pick. I would prefer A.J. Dillon over Kareem Hunt in Dynasty. I was planning on taking Dillon at the 807 if he was going to fall to us. Zach Wilson at the 801. James Robinson at the 802. This is what we were kind of discussing when we were talking about a perfect example of this is Elijah Mitchell, right? I know the majority of Dynasty drafts that you were going to watch, Elijah Mitchell is not going to go at the 701. The majority of Dynasty drafts that you will be in, Elijah Mitchell is going to be going in the 3rd round, which will be very bad, in my opinion. Because when those running backs historically don't have the team investment, yes, you'll get a very impressive rookie season, very similar to James Robinson, but as soon as that team finds a way to bring in someone better the next offseason, the offseason after that, like they're not going to be pot committed to someone like Elijah Mitchell. Look at Philip Lindsay as another example. I think that this is a more fair range to go about Elijah Mitchell. Like I would prefer Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Elijah Mitchell, even though I know if someone clipped that and put it on Twitter, I would just get completely roasted. Now, Allen Robinson at the 804. Okay, we need to go through and instead of criticizing these picks, we need to find out who we're taking with our next one. I don't think we can take a single running back here. Dear God, this running back list is disgusting. There's only like one running back that is somewhat appealing, but I'd rather have a starting quarterback over him, even if we already have 3. Okay, now going over to wide receiver. There's a wide receiver that I like. And honestly, you know what? With the tight end premium format, when we can play a tight end in the flex spot, we're probably taking Noah Fant here. Hopefully, calcium oxide did not hear that. Yeah, he goes Tyler Lockett. I think we're going to take Noah Fant. With Noah Fant, this was a tight end that we were screaming to sell high earlier this season in a redraft. But in Dynasty, fantasy football in particular, this was someone drafted in 2019. This is only his 3rd year. We know historically speaking that these tight ends actually have a later career peak. And with Noah Fant, yes, it's a crappy situation in Denver, but clearly has demonstrated that he has a ton of talent. And if you're getting 1.5 points per reception for the tight end position, like if we were going through and we were submitting a starting lineup, I would prefer playing Noah Fant over every single one of these options. And knowing that other people are going to have a hard time filling in that tight end, I will really like to go with Noah Fant here. So Noah Fant at the 807. And yeah, let me go through and let me scroll through this ADP list, because obviously you are tired of looking at the players at the very top that are just the disappointing names in fantasy. You got Derek Carr going at the 808. I think that's a fine pick by Jay. And Jay usually punts quarterback. Jordan Love going at the 809. Okay, with Jordan Love, that was a quarterback that I was actually going through, and I was looking at Love last offseason, thinking that he was going to be a great investment, and that the second you had a Rodgers injury, the second that you had, Rodgers getting moved or Jordan Love getting moved, his value is going to be guaranteed to increase. With how bad he looked against the Kansas City Chiefs this season, I think all those selections we made of Jordan Love in the 11th round of Dynasty Superflex startups last year looks like a lot of wasted money. Looks like a lot of wasted capital, to be completely honest. Carson Wentz at the 810. I definitely prefer Carson Wentz over Jordan Love at this point. And we preferred Carson Wentz over Jordan Love last year too. Don't get it twisted. I think that this pick with Jordan Love at the 809 is not going to be that good. Even though I was buying into Love last year, and obviously that looks pretty bad. Mike Williams, the 812. This was one of the wide receivers that I would have been considering alongside with Tyler Lockett if he fell to us at 807. Love that Mike Williams selection. And we should probably just actually scroll this down a little bit. Y'all would rather see the entire board than just the players available. And I know a lot of people are probably annoyed with this ADP list. Like I said, it's going to be rough to get used to these dynasty leagues without really having ADP. That's why I said I really think you should go over there, just sign up for Underdog Fantasy, deposit $10, use promo code FLOCK. They'll match that $10. And from there, you can go through and hop into some regular 2022 drafts, get a feel of the draft board, and then you can transition that over to Dynasty Fantasy Football, because it's going to be a little more difficult here to go through and scroll through this list. Kadarius Toney, this was the wide receiver that I thought we were going to be able to take at the 906. With Toney, yes, I didn't like him as a prospect coming into this past year's draft, but to have that first-round draft capital as well to flash the upside that he had a game with 189 receiving yards. He had a single game with 189 receiving yards this season. I think when you flash that level of upside, he is someone that you have to consider taking in the 9th round of a Dynasty startup draft. That is a great pick with Toney, great pick with Darnell Mooney, great pick with Dawson Knox. Okay, yeah, y'all are. We got to get on. We got to get on the ball here. We got to figure out what we were doing, because I feel like the player we were going to take at the 906 is going to be way worse than this group of guys. I think this group of guys is way better than someone like Chase Edmonds. I do not want to be making an embarrassing selection here. Like at running back, I think you're almost just. There's one running back left. We're probably going to be going with that one running back. Now there were 2 running backs left. Stevenson was a good pick, but I think at this point we're just going to be going with. Yeah, we're going to take another running back. I know we have punted wide receiver completely. I think that is something that you can do in Dynasty dependent on the actual settings that you have. I'm going to be going with Daryl Henderson. Now, of course, with Daryl Henderson, you are going to be getting Cam Akers back this next season. And y'all know I had Cam Akers as our Dynasty running back 4 last offseason. We had Cam Akers as our Dynasty running back 4. With that being said, I don't think Cam Akers comes in and just handles every single touch in this backfield. I think Akers comes in, and this will be more so a split backfield, to be completely honest. And Daryl Henderson is on his rookie contract in a very good offense that doesn't have a lot of capital to invest going forward. Maybe if Cam Akers and that devastating Achilles injury don't fully recover, Daryl Henderson will be a fine selection at the 906. And Raphael coming out says, this is my first Dynasty draft. How am I doing? Okay, so let's go through and let's check this out. Okay, so I'm assuming this is going to be Rafa here. Okay, love the Jefferson pick. I really like the Prescott pick as well. Mixon, this selection is completely fine. I'm not a big Justin Fields fan, but we are laughing at people for taking Justin Fields in the second round of startups last offseason. In the fourth, I think that's fine. I think Kelsey in the fifth is fine. Eckler in the sixth is fine. Sanders in the seventh, I like as well. I really don't like this Allen Robinson selection. Now, with Allen Robinson, yes, he's a wide receiver that's on the franchise tag that hopefully can get to a better situation than Chicago next offseason. But to go through and take like Allen Robinson, say ahead of players like Tyler Lockett, where you know you're going to get that production, Kadarius Toney, Darnell Mooney, Mike Williams. I mean, Darnell Mooney's been more productive than Allen Robinson this season alone. And at the same time, Darnell Mooney's a younger wide receiver as well. So I don't really understand the Allen Robinson selection. Outside of that, I really like it. Nick coming out says, might have overpaid a bit, but I traded away Dobbins, A.J. Brown, and Kareem Hunt for Jonathan Taylor in my Dynasty PPR format. What are your thoughts? Obviously, Jonathan Taylor is the running back 1 overall, and it's not even remotely close. Jonathan Taylor is in his own tier. We were a clown earlier this season to talk about Deandre Swift and Najee Harris to be right there with Jonathan Taylor. At this point, you cannot have that take. It has to be Jonathan Taylor in his own tier. Now, with that being said, to go through and to trade away a top 3 wide receiver in Dynasty in A.J. Brown and a low-end running back 1 in Dynasty in J.K. Dobbins, and also throwing in Kareem Hunt just for shits and giggles, I'm in agreement with you. I think you may have overpaid, assuming that it's a 12-team league where you start more than 9 players. If it's a 10-team format, however, or if you have a shallower starting lineup or a shallower bench, where the only thing that matters is to get those elite-level studs in, there I would be fine getting Jonathan Taylor, or if it's a contending team as well, where we need production immediately. JN coming out says 2022 starting Indianapolis quarterback Sam Ehlinger. I'm rooting for it, my friend. You know it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, though. Okay. So Rondell Moore at the 9-10. Let me know what y'all think of that Daryl Henderson selection, because the more I think about it, like Daryl Henderson versus Rondell Moore, that's probably a direction we should have been going Rondell. As we said, I think that you are going to get Daryl Henderson as a committee running back with Cam Akers coming back in. Now, B. Petway does auto-draft Matt Ryan here and Hunter Henry, so that's a little bit annoying. Okay, so this is going to be the last round of the draft. Hopefully, we get our guy back in. Hopefully, we get our guy. There's one player in particular that I'm going to be having my eyes on. Now, we've only drafted 1 wide receiver in this draft. Let me go through and recap this for y'all. We took Lamar in the first, Javonte Williams in the second. The selections that I don't like on my own team are going to be the 3rd and 4th round picks. I think when we took Mac Jones here at the 407, that looks laughable. And I repeat, laughable whenever you had Stafford falling to the 603. I would prefer Stafford over Mac Jones in Dynasty. So the fact that we decided to take Mac Jones instead 2 rounds earlier is one of the worst picks you're ever going to see. Darren Waller at the 506 in a tight end premium format. Really like that selection. I know a lot of people are going to hate our Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick. I am fine with it, given the fact he's a 22-year-old running back on his rookie deal. Tannehill, I like at the 706 in the tight end premium format. I'm fine with Fant at the 807 to play in the flex because I would prefer him in a 1.5 points per reception for the wide. Hell yes. Hell yes, hell yes, hell yes. Let's go through. Let's get our guy going to be a free agent this offseason. I believe that he is an extremely talented wide receiver. Let's bring in Michael Gallup here to be our wide receiver 2 on this team, hoping that he gets a little bit of a better situation this upcoming season. But yeah, we were going to take Gallup there at the 1007. So I think that, honestly, I really like my draft outside of Mac Jones. I think the best pick of the draft was Matthew Stafford here. Parker says, Mason, you're forgetting Michael Gallup. No, I was not forgetting Michael Gallup. We almost took Gallup here at the 906. I think the players that were in consideration here for this 906 selection were going to be Rondell Moore, Michael Gallup, and Daryl Henderson. JN goes with the honorary pick. Please, for the love of God, nobody look at this pick of Sam Ehlinger and think it means anything. Please, please, please. And Caden says, do another draft. Okay, so I'll get another Dynasty draft going. I'm going to get some 2022 drafts on Underdog Fantasy going on the main channel later tonight. So please make sure y'all go sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code FLOCK when you make your first deposit. And that first deposit will get matched dollar for dollar up to $100. You can find the link to Underdog Fantasy in the live chat, in the description of the live stream as well. And there we'll be doing a ton of drafts that y'all can get in with us. I really like the Jameis Winston pick at the 10-11 versus Sam Ehlinger at the 10-08. But here's the board one more time. Of course, thank y'all all so much for coming out. Please drop a like on the live stream if you have not already and you want more Dynasty content right now. And of course, thank y'all. I genuinely appreciate all of y'all, and I cannot wait to get more Dynasty drafts underway and to get into some real Dynasty leagues with y'all this offseason over there on Patreon. So thank you again, and I hope you have a great day.